I've had a few folks ask me about these little sort of guide rail jigs I was using. You might have seen them when I do my shelf pin holes. They register off the holy rail, and they just let me sort of align with the pencil marks where the pin holes are going to go, to save me using the router to do that. People have asked me, were they complicated to make? These are the simplest, easiest, most straightforward little jigs you can possibly do. I made this as one big one and sort of ripped it in half, but we'll demonstrate with a couple of small pieces here. All you need, 3 little bits of scrap, whatever, 6mm, 1/4 inch, MDF in my case, almost inevitably. Could use plywood, whatever you've got really. You need a piece that sits in the little trough between the slotted part of the track and the rib that runs down it. That's 32mm wide with a Festool track. It's 29 with the Makita rail because they've got that funny little sort of lip thing for the anti-tipping dingus. So we've got that little bit that sits in the trough. We've got another piece that overhangs the rail that you'll then trim back to whatever mark you're trying to get. And basically you've got, a little piece that connects the two of them. And that's it basically. It really is that simple. I made these with glue and pins because I expected them to last a little bit longer, but I've made plenty of jigs just with double-sided tape, a strong one like a carpet tape. And that's what I've got on this. So let's just sort of pop that together now. So we've got our little 32mm strip that sits in that little trough there. Doesn't have to be super accurate, there's a little bit of movement of that, we can compensate for that shortly. And then we've got our longer piece that overhangs the edge of the rail. And we've got another piece that joins the two of them together. Now I'm just going to line these up and sight it. And then I'm just going to pull that one out a little bit. Press this down nice and firmly. And then as we put it in the back in the sort of trough there, we're just going to tip it back slightly so that we can slide this one underneath, get it all nicely aligned, and then this longer one we're going to push back against this rib, and this shorter one we're going to push forwards, so we're squeezing it together, and then we drop this down and give it a good firm press. And that's it. Doesn't need to slide particularly. These do. They're a little bit looser. But then you just sort of trim that back to whatever pencil mark you're trying to work to. Really simple, really effective, dirt cheap, just made out of whatever you've got in the scrap bin. Now I don't make many jigs because I don't do that many things that are. I do a lot of things that are repetitive but not identical. But when I do, I quite like to make them work off this central rib. One of the things I do periodically is a sort of a single use or one-off parallel guide. If you don't know, parallel guides are they're a Festool thing. They run off the slotted track here and they give you an edge guide. They're for doing repetitive, narrow-ish rips. Lots of guys, have a search on YouTube, lots of guys have made their own. You can get some from, I think Woodpecker makes some supposedly super accurate ones. A lot of the guys who make these do the same sort of thing as Festool. They'll run off this slotted track and they use T-track and all kinds of things to make the adjustment. As I say, I don't really have any particular need for them. They're quite expensive for what they are, I think. But occasionally it's quite useful. Sometimes I'll reuse, I'll use up offcuts. You might end up with a quarter of a sheet of something left that you just want to rip up into regular cuts. And what I do, again, you start with a strip, 32mm strip in this little trough. You have another bit above it. It doesn't overhang the rail. It doesn't matter if it does. No, it doesn't matter if it does, but I like to go onto this sort of friction strip because that's slightly raised, so it's a good point to get pressure on. And then you need a longer piece that sort of connects the two of them together. the important thing there is that it sort of overhangs your work. I often have a little strip of 9mm or something just underneath it, just to stop that, you know, sort of sag. So that goes under there, to take care of that. And then you just have a little bit of softwood of some sort as a fence that you bring up against the jig, and it keeps it all in place. If I tell you what, let's make one. Let's make one. So let's say you've got a little sheet of board left over. You want to rip 3 30mm, 13 inches. You're going to make a bookcase or something. So you're going to rip 330. So what you do, you mark this up in your usual way. A couple of pencil marks off a tape or rule, or you know, whatever you'd normally do. Broken pencil. You put your guardrail against your pencil marks, and don't write in. I know the rail is too short for this particular cut. It's just for demonstration purposes. So that's you know what you want. That's the distance that you're trying to repeat. So you take your little strip. Again, I'm just going to use double-sided tape for this one. That goes in the middle. I'll take that one. So there. And then you want your sort of cover strip. And like before, we're just going to let it tip up a little bit. We're going to align it. Slide that one out, press this one home so it's good and solid, bring this one back in, and just like we did before, we'll pull this one back against the rib and we'll push this one forwards, and then we bring them down together and give it a good hard squeeze, and that is a nice snug fit on the rail. There's actually no droop in there at all. I will put this in anyway. It's a little strip of 9mm. Under there, just to make sure we don't get any problems. Now we just take a little strip of softwood. We'll double check we're still on our pencil marks, and then we'd run this up against the edge of the board, against the underside of our jig. Give that another good firm press. And what we'll do, we'll just move that to one side slightly, and then we can There's absolutely not a masterclass in how to cut a board into. Robust. And then all you'll do, when you come to make your cut, put your guides on the rail and just move them into position. And there you are. Bang on your pencil lines. If you want to keep it, if you think you're going to make more 13-inch repetitive cuts, you can mark it up with a Sharpie, drill a hole in it, hang it on the wall. Easiest thing to do in the world, dead simple, dead cheap, you know, absolutely not a proper parallel guide that's variable and customizable, but for a one-off use, you know, it takes 10 seconds to make and costs you virtually nothing. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed it, hope you find them useful, hope you find these useful. I encourage you to make that. Do consider subscribing, then you'll be notified whenever I post something new. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.